picking up something precious for your collection. You should look at the Diamond Select Toys, the Lord of the Rings Golem Deluxe action figure. Once a peaceful hobbit known as Smeagol, the wretched creature called Golem has been twisted into his misshapen form by the One Ring of Sauron, which he carried into the deep caves of the Misty Mountain. It was there that he met Bilbo Baggins and lost the ring to him. Driving Golem into a mad fury, he swore to get his revenge, and his long quest to reclaim the ring began. This deluxe action figure of Golem is based on his appearance in Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. It features approximately 16 points of articulation and interchangeable heads and hands, as well as bonus accessories for Gimli and Legolas. Gonna be looking at Golem in a moment. First, though, I'd like to thank the folks over at Diamond Select that did provide this sample of Golem/Smeagol, depending on when you're talking to him. And we can have a look at it in this video. Let's go ahead and take the tape measure just to see how tall the figure stands. Taking it right to the very top of his head, Smeagol is small. He's about 4 inches small, and that works out to be a figure that's about 10 centimeters in height. Let's just bring the camera back just a little bit. Gollum is small after all. Just how small again? Here's what he looks like next to Frodo. Another small figure. Here's what he looks like next to Gimli. Now just to look at these two small chaps alone, Golem only goes to about the shoulder section of Frodo. And what about the elbow area of Gimli, give or take? Here's what he also looks like next to Legolas. And bringing in another member of the Fellowship, here's what he also looks like next to Aragorn. You can probably see why I had to bring the camera a little bit back. If not, I would have decapitated the head of Aragorn. Yeah, Gollum is small. Maybe, if anything, he probably could have been just a little bit smaller too, but the figure technically did come out of the packaging crouched on top of a rock face. You could really bend his knees to make him just a little bit shorter. But funny enough, actually taking him out of the packaging and taking him off the stone for the first time, he actually was slightly distorted in size. I had to straighten out his legs, and his joints were a little on the tight side too. A lot of accessories come included with Gollum. Not only accessories for him, but accessories for also some of the other figures we've looked at before. Like, for example, the swords. We're going to go ahead and pick these up right now. These elfish swords, as you can see, are painted nicely, both in the silver. Some additional gold has been added in there as well for some of the scroll work on the blade. And the guard itself has almost like a faux wood look to it. I've got a little smudge, unfortunately, on the tip of one of my swords. It is made of a softer plastic. Now, these don't technically go with Gollum, but bringing back in Legolas, when we had a look at that figure, remember on the back, just below his quiver, he had a couple of scabbards that were missing swords. You can take then those swords, see where we're going with this, and you can take those swords and slide them in. It's the first time, there we go. Had not quite lined them up here. Take the other one, slide it in. Had it, I think, going, yeah, I had it going the right way. Slide those in. And now, just like that, Legolas now finally has himself those swords that were missing, absent, the first time we looked at the figure. One step further from that, the figure also comes include, Gollum that is, comes include with several arrows, 3 of them actually. The arrows, I'm just going to put down Legolas here for a second. Just getting his legs balanced. Perfect. There we go. Looking at the actual arrows themselves, it seems like both the feathers as well as the tips are all identical. Nicely painted. And again, you can go ahead and take those 3 arrows and fit them into the back quiver of Legolas. Gifts continue to go around. We're going to go ahead and just, again, get him to stand. Let's bring in Gimli. Gifts for Gimli, too. Gimli, he actually comes included with an axe for Gimli. Now, when we had a look at the figure before, there was that loop there. Technically, the figure did have 3 axes. I did have 1 axe in there at the time being, but you could take the other axe that now comes included with Gollum and just slide it into place. Now you've got yourself another. Like you didn't already have enough axes already. Give Gimli another axe. Maybe that's why he's offering up his axe. He already has so many already. We'll go ahead and move those figures out of the way. Nothing, unfortunately, for Aragorn. Now, I thought when we had... I'm just moving Legolas just off to the side here. Now, when we did have a look at Aragorn, I thought perhaps the figure was advertised as having a quiver and a bow with him, but he actually didn't come included with it. I thought this would have been the time that Gollum would have had both arrows, a quiver, and a bow for Aragorn, but he sadly doesn't still come with one. Anyways, we'll move that to the side. On to now the accessories that are specifically for Gollum himself. Now, getting him out of the packaging, the figure also came included with his rock face. I'm assuming it's to be hollow plastic. It's hard to tell really by the fact that they've actually put a bottom to it, but judging by the sound that's making, I would imagine this is probably hollow plastic. It also feels like it's hollow too. Nicely painted, decently detailed. There's also a couple of pegs on the top there. There's one, and there's one right there. So you can take yourself Gollum. And as I said at the beginning of this video, taking this guy first off of the perch, his legs, he had some serious arthritis. I really had to straighten out those legs and force the thighs. But you can actually take Gollum. It doesn't have to be, I guess we'll put it on this way. There's a peg hole on the underside of one of his feet that can go onto the peg here. And would you believe there's a secondary peg that goes right there? And then you can kind of crouch the figure down. The packaging had this so much better the first time I did this. But yeah, you can have the figure on top of that rock face. That's a nice touch. The figure also, while he's currently there right now, figure comes included with a couple of fish. He has to eat after all. Comes included with not one, but 2 fish, which are still fish. Don't call them fishes. Nicely painted here in almost a metallic green with some additional gold that they've added to the eyes. And on the underbelly of the fish, they painted it silver. I would imagine probably they've painted it maybe, or it probably was all the plastic of silver. And maybe just added the green on top of it. Nice little fish, though. He comes with a couple of hands for holding the fish. So, like, for example, you can take the fish, fit them into Gollum's hands. You can fit them this way, or you can have them this way. Although this way doesn't seem to sit as well in those fingers. You kind of have to get the tail, there we go, underneath those bottom fingers. And he holds the fish fine. Gollum also comes included, again, a couple of other grabbing hands. We're going to get to the main one in a second. He also comes again with another grabbing hand. This one doesn't really look like it serves a purpose. I mean, it would be way too big for him to really be holding the fish with. Unless he wants to try to strangle Frodo. Maybe a little bit later. And then the figure, the most important of the hands that a figure comes included with, is the one that holds the single ring. I'll leave it to you to guess as to which hand I'm going to be displaying with the figure. Oh yeah, I know, it's this one. It's this one. I didn't leave you very much time to... I'm sorry, I didn't leave you much time. If you did want to display this, of course, in Gollum's hands, I'm going to go ahead and take this hand and remove it from the forearm, which is actually a lot easier than the next thing that we're going to try to do. And I know we're going to fail, unfortunately, doing it. We're just going to remove the hand and pop in the new hand. Look at the long post on this, by the way. That's going to slide into the hole provided for the forearm. All the way in. There we go. Yeah, that's going to be the way I'm going to display him. Look how fantastic that looks with him actually holding the ring. And I got to say, too, I mean, it would have been difficult, extremely difficult, to them have actually had the ring as a separate piece. There's no way you'd be able to get it in between the fingers, and rest assured, will be lost right away. You might as well just sculpt the hand with the ring already intact. It's nice to see that they actually did that. Oh, look at that. Just looking through the ring. The other thing the figure comes included with is the thing I had the most struggle trying to do, and I still have not yet succeeded. Put the figure down here for a second. Gollum comes included with 2 other head sculpts. Now, as of right now, he actually has a smiling face. A little bit more leaning towards the likeness of Smeagol, perhaps, than Gollum. He comes with also this head, a more worrisome head, or one that's plotting, perhaps. I'm likely leaning more towards him plotting. He's looking with his eyes off to the side. Nice paint in both the cases. You got a little bit of red there on the nose. You got some red additionally added into the ear area there. Again, nicely painted head sculpt. And then there's this one, which I would honestly like to be able to display with the figure. You're probably thinking to yourself, well, what? Why don't you just display with the figure? Here's the problem. So the thing with Gollum, people want to call him Golem. Here's the problem with Gollum, is his head is on a ball joint. Now, a ball joint alone wouldn't have been so bad, but the figure does actually have a dumbbell ball joint, which basically means like there's a ball joint here, and there's a ball joint like right here. You can't see it. It's rooted inside the neck. Every single time I've tried to remove the head to replace it with another one, what ends up happening is, and I'm probably not going to be any bit more successful doing it right now in front of the camera. First of all, it's really hard to remove the head from the ball joint, but what ultimately happens, I'm just going to skip that step. What ends up happening is I end up unrooting the ball joint that's in the neck and not the one I want to detach that's attached to the head. So when I end up removing the head, the ball joint is still part of the actual head, that I can't then add this head instead. Now I've heated this. I have submerged this in hot water. I've run a few passes with the hairdryer, and still I'm unable to unroot the head. One other option I may have to do is take the head off, take myself a pair of pliers and try to yank the ball joint off, but it's difficult to hold on to enough of it to pop that off the ball joint. I honestly think in a case like this, for how much the articulation, I mean, for what we're looking at right now, before we kind of get into the main posability of Gollum here, for what we can do right now, I think this could be done easily by just sculpting the ball joint at the base of the neck. Literally, if you were just to pop this off in my scenario, what you'd be looking at the very end of the neck is just a built-in molded ball joint. Then the head would sit on top of that. Instead of actually having two ball joints, one here, invisible, one here, also invisible, something that can have to be separately removed, and something that also had to be molded separately, I think, again, they probably could have just added the ball joint at the base of the neck, right here, right where my finger is outlining it right now. And then it would have been so much easier just to pop the head on top of that ball joint, because you wouldn't have to worry. It was already built into the neck. You'd just literally be popping the head right off. I really think that they could have done that instead. When I eventually get it off, I think I would like to maybe swap it out with this head sculpt here. At least, though, I would have to say they did pick a pretty good head that if I can't get it off, and I'm stuck with this for the time being, I'm pretty happy with still. It's a nice looking head sculpt, very nicely sculpted, decently painted and detailed. As for the rest of Gollum's body, very malnourished. You can see like his spine is sticking out here, and some additional bruising has been added not only to the tops of his shoulders, around his shoulder blade area here, the back of his torso also as well. And there's also some bruising here on the bottom, kind of his mid-torso as well. So like he really has been through a whole lot. He's got some scuffed up, dirty knees, some scuffing there on the side of his leg as well, and he's also got his loincloth, which is a softer plastic. Just to kind of show you how it looks like underneath, the legs frequently seem to pop off these ball joints. Like this, I'm just going to take this off for a second. That's what I really would have liked to see for the neck. See where it's just basically molded to the rest of the lower half? If they just replicated the exact same thing on the neck, I think it would have made for a much easier figure to try to move around. Speaking of moving around, let's have a look at the articulation on Gollum. His head, like I said, already mentioned, is on a ball joint. But for me to do this, I think could easily have been also done by just having a ball joint at the base of the neck, because I think it would have done the exact same thing. I don't know if I would say the range is any bit greater, simply just because he's got that two ball joints working behind the scenes. Again, I feel like he could have, and again, it would just been so much easier to pop the head off, because you wouldn't have to worry about the post going along with it. It would just simply stay with the neck. Shoulders do come out. I wouldn't necessarily say at a full 90-degree angle bend, but maybe about a 45-degree. Arms rotate all the way around. Figure does have a single hinge in the elbow. Hands also rotate, or forearms rotate. Hands also rotate all the way around. I don't think I've got the peg all the way in. There we go. He has an upper torso ball joint. The figure has, it doesn't seem to have any waist swivel. Like basically all of it is contained here in the upper torso ball joint. Legs move back and forth, also on a ball joint. He has a single hinge on the knee that allows the lower leg to rotate. Figure has a hinge on the feet, and there's a nice ankle rocker there as well. Gollum is such a nice looking figure. I really like the way he's turned out. Whether I decide to display him on the rock face or not, or if I just really decide to display him with the rest of the team, again, we'll just put the rock behind him, I guess, if we want to the front for the time being, and put next to him Frodo. We can also bring in the other ones that benefited from this figure release. Gimli got himself, "You have my axe." Apparently he also got an axe from Gollum. Get him to stand. And also Legolas benefited from not only getting arrows, but also those two empty slots that were supposed to hold swords are no longer empty, thanks to Gollum. Still wish that the figure for Aragorn could have actually come included with like the bow and the arrows. But still, though, it's nice to finish off this wave by getting ourselves Gollum. Now, Gollum, again, the only thing I would say, great looking figure. Love the accessories that he comes included with. The only thing I probably would have fixed to the figure is the way, how inconvenient it is to change the heads. Again, if the ball joint, I think, was just molded to the rest of the neck, it would have been so much easier to pop the head off. That's the sound it makes when it pops off the ball joint. And then to replace the heads instead. Because you've already got the post built inside the neck, every single time, at least that I have tried to do it, heating, both with a hairdryer and with the hot water trick, doesn't still seem to want to free that ball joint inside of his head. So for the time being, I'm going to stick with this head sculpt with a plan down the road to try to change the head to the other heads that came included with the figure as well. You couldn't really have a proper Lord of the Rings display without, of course, the appearance of Gollum. And I think we've got a nice one here from Diamond Select. Really, they didn't even need to include this rock face, but it does add a little bit of extra shelf appeal when you've got Gollum perched on top of it, especially when he's got the one ring in his hand. Still a bit bummed by the fact it was so difficult to change the head out. I tried again in between takes, hoping I could eventually dislodge the head that I had right now and replace it with one of the others, but no such luck. At least, though, this head sculpt works better, I think, to having him displayed with the ring in his hand, as he's relishing in the fact that he's now discovered the ring all over again. The figure is well posable, decently detailed, well painted, and again, he fits in well scale-wise with all the other Lord of the Rings figures that we've also gotten before from Diamond Select. It's a really, really nice looking figure. Again, the only thing I would have said is it should have been a little bit easier to change the head sculpts. I'm still going to be struggling with that long after this video is finished recording. Big thank you, though. Big thank you to the folks over at Diamond Select that did provide the sample of Gollum that we could have a look at in this video. Have you picked this figure up for yourself? If not, what do you think of it based on this review and this review alone? Also, if you guys are interested and would like to check out more from Diamond Select, I can provide the link down below that will take you on over to their YouTube channel. Did you know that Diamond Select has a YouTube channel? You didn't? Well, they do. And it's your best way to know a sneak peek of what's up and coming and what's going to be hitting retail stores, comic book stores, and online. It's, like I said, you're always able then to see upcoming statues, figures, other things that they've got planned in the pipeline. Again, if you're interested, I'll put the link down below to Diamond Select's YouTube channel in the video description. And while you're also down there as well, a shameless plug, of course, to my own channel. If you guys are enjoying the content that you guys have been seeing and certainly have been enjoying these Lord of the Rings reviews, make sure that if you haven't already done so, that you're hitting the subscribe button down below. If you haven't already done so, that you're turning on the bell notification so you're going to get reminders every single time a new video is popping up here on this channel, and making sure that you're coming back, because while we have wrapped up the review, at least for right now, of Gollum, there's definitely going to be a lot more Diamond Select reviews coming your way. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.